In this section, we're going to look at the definitions for flow, how we define flow, and how we have a slightly different definition in the beginning of our book versus the definition that we have at the end of our book. We used our own methodology and continued to iteratively distill it down to a shorter and shorter statement. We're going to revisit both the definitions and the four lenses. Again, the definition in Chapter 1 was sort of long-winded. The definition in Chapter 9 was much more concise. And really, flow boils down to the formula that we're sharing and the pattern that we're using for this entire training, where we started with vision, we looked at people, we looked at the 4D model, and how to use these tools, techniques, and mindsets to help reshape individual culture, team culture, product culture, and company culture. And so we'll look at flow through the four lenses. In Chapter 1 of our book, Flow, we define flow as the state of optimal performance achieved by applying a clear, consistent, persistent, and unified vision at all levels of an organization. So you have a vision and it's everywhere. And so that's the definition of flow in the beginning of our book. In Chapter 9, getting there towards the end, because then we go into a bunch of case studies after that, we shorten our definition to the optimal state of high performance. Now, flow will help you achieve and sustain higher levels of performance individually and as a team and as an organization. That's the goal and the purpose of both this preparation course and both of our books. And remember, if it's not sustainable, then you can achieve temporary bursts of high performance. But what we're shooting for is an optimal state of high performance. And then what I would add is that can be sustained. That's sustainable. It's at a pace that you can continue to maintain that high level of performance. If you look at a professional basketball team, when the Chicago Bulls were winning everything, or when the Lakers were winning everything, or the Celtics were winning everything, if you looked at the individuals and the teams, they were able to individually enter into a high state of flow, and the teams were able to enter into a high state of flow. Did that mean they won every game? No, but they won a lot of them. But when it really came down to it, when it came to tournament time, they delivered. And Mihail Csikszentmihalyi, he did a study on individual flow and even team flow, but primarily individual flow. His book was written in 1972, and Ted and myself and our other two brothers, we were all basketball players. We understood team sports, we understood flow, we understood what it took to get into that flow during the game. And it was interesting, if you would plan the game ahead of time and think about the game each quarter, how you wanted it to look, many times it was interesting that if you did a plan ahead of time, how each of those quarters looked, that it actually turned out like that during the game. And that happened over and over again, and Mihai, he actually went through that in his book, and it was a way that top performers and top athletes got themselves into the flow. They were always planning for the game. And they were planning, okay, in this situation, this is how the pass is going to go. In this breakaway, this is how we're going to help each other get down the court faster. And it was just interesting how that all worked together. And we were able to, some games, it was just amazing. Every shot, you put up, almost everything went in. It's just like all of a sudden you're in that groove and every shot goes in. Every pass goes to the other teammate through the defender's legs or whatever. And everything just happens as it's supposed to. And in a sense, it's like very much like a psychological warfare almost, in that if you saw the other team getting into their flow and your team was struggling and not getting into the flow, that tended to work against your own team, and you could feel that you were slipping out of flow. And then people get into the blame game and they start yelling at each other, and everything just goes off the rails. So we want you to hit the optimal state of high performance for an individual, for the team, for the product program processes that you have, and for the portfolios and the whole organization. And so when you can hit flow in all four boxes, you're going to have an organization that can quickly respond to market changes. You'll have an organization that can deliver products that have the right vision, that will meet the needs of the customer right at the point in time that the customer needs or wants your product, service, or result. And so it's all about how do we get everyone into that state of flow and how to achieve flow in every area. Because if you're only achieving flow on the individual and team boxes, and you're not achieving flow in the product, program, process, portfolio, or organization boxes, it's going to create a ton of friction in the organization. And that's the whole point of the flow friction analysis, is to help you identify what are those elements of friction that are happening so that you can identify them, target them, solve them, mitigate them, or even eliminate them. And so what you're trying to get to is a state of no friction, or as one of our teams at one of our customers came up with, was zero friction, which was just an awesome tagline for their particular team, since they were the methods coaches for that organization. There weren't so many slides in this particular video, but there was a lot of information. We went back and revisited the definitions. We looked at flow through the four lenses. And there are, by the way, multiple books on flow. Ted's and my book on flow isn't the only book that's out there. The individual flow, the original one, is from the early 70s by Dr. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. At the team level, there's like the book Drive by Daniel Pink. For product and product development flow, Don Reinertson's book is out there. Our book Flow is the book that brings all the other books of flow together into a cohesive leadership framework that you can use. And it's a single leadership framework so that you're able to apply all four areas at once. And so flow starts with leadership and it ends with leadership. It's along the lines of, for the president, the buck stops here. And so for the leader, the buck stops with them. And so depending on where you're at in the organization, the buck stops with you in the area in which you have the responsibility and accountability. All right. And so use the four lenses and use flow in the four lenses, and you're going to increase the results. You could even deliver remarkable results. They're going to be sustainable, and you're going to be able to duplicate it and do that over and over and over again. That gets the attention of the C-suite.